Hi guys and welcome to Learn Extra Live. It is the grade 12 show and it is Maths Lit. And don't get too excited guys, look who's standing next to me. We haven't seen this face
For a while,
For a
huh?
while.
Yeah.
Welcome John, how are
Hey,
you?
it's great to be with you guys. I know that I don't always do Maths Lit, but guess what? Peter's away again.
I don't know whether, I was going to say I'm so glad, but I know he's going to watch the show later and he's going to come and pinch me next week.
Yeah, but you know what? He did say, I must say hi to you, and I must say hi to all the learners out there. Guys, if you're down in the Western Cape, look out. Peter's on the streets. He's stalking you. He's coming to see exactly what's going on. And you know what else? He's left some jokes. So maybe we'll get some jokes in a little while. I might not tell them as well as Peter can, but we'll be there for you. Guys, maybe you want to send Peter a joke and I'll BBM him after the show as well.
I think
So
that's a good idea.
get him on the page and give us some jokes for Peter. He needs some cheering up. He's on holiday down in the Cape. He's staying with his mother-in-law, so he'll definitely need some cheering up.
Yeah, they all know about his mother-in-law, right?
Yeah, no,
Right.
for sure.
So what are we chatting about today?
Okay, guys, I know that there's some of you out there that are starting your prelims very soon.
We've got a lot of that on the page.
And I've seen that. So what we thought we'd set up is some revision preparation for prelims. And today we're going through best way to prepare for a prelim is to go and do some past exam papers. So we're looking at the 2009 February March paper 1, because I know you do paper 1 before we do paper 2. So let's get in that. But if you've got any other questions, I know we've had some already. Guys are asking about scale and probability and all that sort of thing. We'll try and put those together as well and answer those questions.
Awesome. Okay, so take your spot by the board.
I'll take the spots and let's go.
Okay, so now guys, John has spoken and you have heard. Please post your questions on the page. It's facebook.com/learnextra. Also chat to us on Twitter @learnextra. Prelims are coming and we are here to help you out. So post those questions on the page. The only silly question is the one asked after prelims or finals. We've said that before. So let's get chatting and let's start the show. John, take it away.
Thanks, Indy. It's great to be with you. Now, guys, I want to remind you that paper 1 deals with a certain level of question. But don't ignore paper 1. They're really important that you get the basic skills right, because it's really easy marks for you to get. But if you don't practice, don't skip over when you're doing those previous exam questions. Don't skip over question 1, because you might think you've got an ace, but actually you're just throwing marks down the toilet, and you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you've got everything sorted out. So my advice to you, when you're revising for your prelims, get a previous exam paper question. Don't look at the memo. Get the question and do the question for yourself before you even start to think about looking at the memo. And work according to time as well. Don't spend too long. You need to make sure that you get all the answers sorted out. So we're going to go through some of the basic questions and then we'll move on to some more difficult questions from this particular paper. We're looking at the 2009 February March paper. So if you want to download it, I'm sure you can get it on the internet. Go to either our website or go to education.gov and you'll find it there. You can download the papers. So let's go. First of all, here we go. Question number 1 says, do the following calculations and show all your calculations in full. So it's very important. It says, don't skip this step. Show all your calculations in full. So we're going to be a bit tedious here. We're going to say, write 47% as a common fraction. Now, guys, remember what Peter always says. Percentage means you divide by 100. So here we're going to go. We're going to say 47% equals 47 divided by 100. Now, that wasn't too difficult, but it's written as a common fraction. We can't simplify it anymore because it's an odd number divided by 100. It's in the correct format that we want. Let's go on to the next question. 1 mark on the board, we're doing well. So let's get to the next one. Now says to us, write 78 out of 120 as a decimal fraction. Now, guys, here you might think, well, let's be smart and let's cancel down. You can do that. You can try it in your heads, but it's not the best advice. Best thing with this sort of question, don't waste the marks, don't waste time, get your calculator out. So let's make sure that you've got your calculator in front of you and let's get it out. Let's make sure that we've got it sorted. Now, there are different ways to do this depending on the calculator that you've got. please make sure that you write in the question exactly as it is on the paper. Because if you write a different number, even though your calculations might be correct, you're not going to get the full marks here. So how are we going to do it? If you've got one of these sort of calculators, you've got the fraction button, which is really nice, and you can put in 78, and then you go to the bottom part, and you're going to type in the 100. And we type in the 100, or sorry, it wasn't 100, it was 120. So let's put in the 120 and hope that we can kill one of those. All right, let's do it again. 78, do the bottom line, 120, and we want it as a decimal fraction. We're going to say equals. Now you'll notice that it gives it to you as an answer over here as 13 out of 20. Now that is the answer given on the calculator, 13 out of 20. Is it the right answer? Well, it is true that they are the same fraction, but it's not what the question has said. It didn't say give it as a common fraction. It said give it as a decimal fraction. So even though your calculator gives the answer of 13 out of 20, we must push the S to D to get the decimal fraction, and we're going to write it down as 0.65. So there we go. We're going to write down the answer as 0.65. And there's the decimal fraction. Hope you've got that sorted. Now, of course, some of you are saying, but my calculator doesn't have this special fraction button. That doesn't matter. You can type it in just as normal. So I'm going to just redo that to make sure that you can see that. If I didn't want to use the fraction button, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do exactly the same. Just simply say 78 divided by 120, get the answer, gives me the fraction as well. Don't write that down as my final answer. Change it, 0.65. Got it? Hope so. Let's move on to the next question. So the next part of this question gets a little bit more interesting, but you'll notice it starts to increase in marks. It's now for 2 marks. What does it say? It says simplify 1.2 meters, 1.2 meters plus, and then in brackets, 23.5 meters times 5, and then minus 4.7 meters. Now, what they're really trying to check here is that you remember BODMAS. Remember, we start with what's in brackets, then multiply, then divide, then add and subtract. If you've got a calculator like we've got, one of these fancy ones, that you can write it out, then you can write it out as it's given, and it's going to work it out for you. Obviously, you can't put in the units, but we say 1.2 plus, then open the brackets, 23.5 times 5. Now the calculator will do that part first. Then the next part of the question said minus 4.7. Minus 4.7. If we push equals, it gives us the answer of 114 exactly. Now I'm going to write that down, and then I'm going to show it to you how you would do it if you didn't have this special calculator. 114 meters. Okay, so if we didn't have the calculator that does it for us, that obeys the rules of BODMAS, then we'd have to break it apart into parts. You're just using a simple calculator, simple screen, just with the 4 operations on. What are you going to do? This is how I would set it out. I'd say, what part am I going to do first? Well, clearly the brackets and the multiply, that's my first step. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to say, let me do the brackets and the multiply first, step 1. I'm going to say, let's do 23.5 times 5. So I'm going to ignore what was on my calculator previously, and let's put that in. 23.5 times 5 equals, get the answer in full, 117.5. Don't panic, write down the answer. 117.5. Right, what was the next thing that we had to do? Well, we can either on this question, we can either do the addition part or the subtraction part. I'm going to, for step 2, do the addition part. So I'm going to say, step 2, I'm going to add, because in BODMAS, it's add and then subtract. So I'm going to take that answer, and I'm going to add 1, 2. So I'm going to say 117,5 plus 1, 2. Now, the reason I'm writing it out like this is it did say to us that we needed to show our full calculation. So that's why I'm doing it like this. I'm showing you exactly what you need to do. Okay, so if we go back to the calculator, there was my answer, 117,5, and I'm going to add 1, 2. 1, 2 in the correct order. My answer for that gives me 118,7. So 118,7. Sorry, 118,7. And that's correct. Now, what's the last part? We mustn't forget it. It tells us that there is another operation we've got to do. We've got to subtract this part. We've got to subtract 4, 7. So step 3 is my subtraction. So I've got my answer, 118,7, and I'm going to subtract 4, 7. Now, don't think you can do this in your head. You might be able to do it in your head. Good exercise to try, but don't rely only on your mental capacity, because maybe you've done it quickly and you get the wrong answer. Always check on the calculator. So I can do it in my head. I'm going to say it's 114 because it's 7, subtract 7. 8 minus 4 gives me 4. I think I've got it, but let me just make sure. I don't want to lose the mark. So I'm going to say 118,7 minus 4, 7, and I get the answer 114. My final answer given over here tells me that it is 114. And guess what? That was the same answer that I got when I did it on my fancy calculator. I got the same answer. I've been able to check it. The thing that I've shown you is that you've got to show all your working. And I hope you can see how to do that. Each step is shown, the first step that you do, the brackets and the multiply, then the addition, then the subtraction, and you'll get full marks for that. You won't lose anything. Okay, let's move on. Next one. Here's a one that's a little bit more, might be off-putting, but guys, don't panic. It's not time to panic when you see fractions and things that are cubed and square roots. No, this is easy stuff. You can do it. You've got the help of your friendly calculator. We need to show all the working though, so let's do them one step at a time. So what we recognize is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the cubing part there, because that's kind of in brackets and it's multiplied. So I'm going to do that part first, and then I'm going to add that part in there. I don't want to do anything else. I want to obey the rules of BODMAS. So let's make sure that we get it right. So we've got a third multiplied by 3 to the power of 3. Now, don't get confused about what this is. Remember what multiplied by this cube is here. It's actually saying, we can simplify it to say it's a third multiplied by 3 times 3 times 3. And we want to do all of that. Now, I suppose if you're looking at that, you might be tempted, and you wouldn't be wrong to say, hold on, this is a third multiplied by 3. Can't I just cancel those two? And you would be right. A third multiplied by 3 is going to give you 1. And so you can see that 3 times 3 now is 9. So we predict the answer here for this part will be 9. Let's check it on the calculator. Always use your calculator to check what you've done. So I'm going to use a third over here. 1, go to the bottom and put the 3 in, and then go out, multiplied by 3. And now I want to get to the power of 3. I wanted to get a cube. So I think that will do it for me. There's the button to cube it. And I'll get the answer of 9. So I've checked my work. Hope you can see what I'm doing, taking it step by step. Now, that wasn't the end of the question. Don't stop there. The next part of the question was the second part over here, which I'm going to highlight now. We've done this part, the first part. We've done that. We've got an answer. We now need to work this part out, simplify that part. So let's do that on the calculator. And we're going to say to ourselves, let's take the square root of 64. So we're going to write down square root, we type in 64, and we get the answer of 8. Even if you knew 8 times 8 is 64, so what's the square root of 64? And you thought you knew it, check it on the calculator. So what we're going to say, write down the part that we're missing there. We're going to say square root of 64 is equal to 8. Now, what do we have to do to these two parts? We've got to add them together. So that was part 1. That's part 2. What's our step 3? Well, hopefully we can get it. And we can write it down. Step 3 is to take those two parts and add them together. So we're going to take 9 and 8, and we're going to add them together. Don't guess. We think it's 17. Let's check it on the calculator. And we're going to say 8 plus 9 equals 17, and we've got it right. So it doesn't take 2 seconds just to check it on the calculator and make sure that you're in the ballpark. Okay, I think we've got time for one more short question, which is actually not as easy as it might seem. But I think it's really important that you do revise this sort of thing, because it always does come up. Calculate 14% VAT, can get asked on VAT. 14% is the rate of VAT on 24,650 Rand. So how are we going to do it? There are different ways of doing it. We can first of all say, let's take 24,650 Rand, and let's multiply that by 14 out of 100. So that will give us, using the calculator again, clear it, 24,650 times 14 divided by 100, and I've just done it out like that, and I'm told the amount of VAT now, 14%, is 3,451. 3,451. $3,451. Now, what must I do to this VAT? It said calculate 14% VAT on that amount. That's what I wanted to calculate. Didn't say calculate the total amount. Now, you see, sometimes what we're thinking when we read the question, we think we need to get the total amount. It didn't say that. It said only calculate the 14%. Now, I hope you've got that. Make sure that you can do it. Practice on your calculator. And for whatever you do, please don't change your calculator just before the exam. Okay, Indy? I think it's about time for a break, eh?
That's what we're going to do. We're going to take a short little break. If you guys do have any questions, post it onto our page. We will be getting to you. I know there's a whole bunch of matrics saying they are writing soon, and a whole bunch of matrics are actually working through with their papers right now. So if there is anything that you are wondering, send those questions through. We'll see you now after the break.